Welcome back, focused learners. So, have you ever wondered what actually happens to your brain when you just stop having sex? Whether it's a totally deliberate choice, maybe a shift in life circumstances, or just an unexpected dry spell, the neurological impacts are seriously fascinating. Today, in this explainer, we're going to explore exactly what goes on inside our heads during abstinence. Okay, let's dive right into this. The short answer here? Your brain definitely notices the change, but, not always in the ways you might expect. It's not just a physical shift, right? It's a deeply neurological one, where your brain essentially has to completely recalibrate its internal reward systems. To really understand this, we need to zoom in, like microscopic level of the brain zoom in. When intimacy hits pause, we see this rapid-fire breakdown in three major neurochemicals. Let's take a look at what we call the happy hormone shift. First up, we've got dopamine. We all know it, right? It's the brain's ultimate reward chemical. Now, when sexual activity stops, your dopamine levels don't just, vanish into thin air. But the absolutely crucial thing here is that the source of that powerful stimulation changes. Because sex is such a potent trigger for pleasure and motivation, taking it out of the mix can temporarily leave you feeling maybe a bit less energized. You might feel a little unmotivated, or honestly, just more bored than usual while your brain kind of looks around for its next major reward. Next on the list is oxytocin, widely known as the bonding hormone. Normally, it's released during physical touch to build deep trust and emotional connection. When a dry spell hits, those oxytocin levels subtly drop, and yeah, that can definitely impact your feelings of emotional closeness, especially if you're in a romantic relationship. But here is the absolute beauty of our biology. Your brain is smart. It will actively start to crave other forms of closeness to compensate for that missing connection. It adapts. And then we have cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Regular sexual activity is actually a fantastic natural stress regulator that actively lowers cortisol. So when you remove that specific outlet, well, some people might notice a pretty clear shift. You might feel increased irritability, maybe a bit more tension, or just find it harder to relax at the end of the day. Without that built-in stress relief valve, the physical tension can temporarily build up. But hey, it's not just about those immediate chemical drops. Let's move to and see how this builds, because it's really about how your entire desire mechanism adapts as time ticks by. This creates what we can call a distinct libido timeline. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. In the short term, desire can actually spike. It's classic human nature, really. The anticipation, the deprivation, maybe a bit of frustration. It all means your brain fixates heavily on what it can't have. But long term, your brain is incredibly efficient. If a neural pathway isn't being heavily used, it basically stops wasting energy on it. It gradually dials down the volume on those sexual thoughts and urges just to conserve energy. Pretty wild, right? Knowing all this, you might be thinking a sudden stop in intimacy guarantees a massive drop in mood. But no way, that's not true. Your brilliant, highly adaptable brain actively seeks out alternative regulation strategies. It's like a hate-seeking missile for new pathways to get that pleasure and mood regulation. That might mean naturally leading into a rigorous exercise routine, channeling all that extra energy into a creative project, or just heavily investing in your social connections. Okay, now shifting the narrative from pure biology over to psychology, we have to look at what abstinence does to our identity and self-image. Because let's be real, sex isn't just a physical act. For so many of us, it heavily reinforces feelings of desirability, attractiveness, and this deep-seated confidence. So when that's removed unexpectedly, it leaves a very real emotional vulnerability. And because of that vulnerability, it is completely natural for your brain to start whispering these kinds of questions to you. Is something wrong with me? Or am I still wanted? A sudden dry spell can profoundly shake our feelings of desirability. It's just a very human reaction when a primary source of validation unexpectedly stops. But I really want you to hear me on this and let it sink in. These thoughts, they're just thoughts. They are not facts. Actually, scratch that. They are simply your brain trying to make sense of a totally new, unexpected change in routine. Your brain is just fishing around, trying to find a reason for the shift. Nothing is wrong with you. It's literally just a neurological and psychological adjustment period. So, how do we handle this adjustment? Well, we need some actionable takeaways for rebuilding confidence without sex. First, it requires intentional reassurance. It means leaning heavily on your emotional support systems, practicing massive doses of self-compassion, and honestly, most importantly, anchoring your identity outside of your sexuality. You've got to actively find alternative sources of validation to keep that core self-worth strong during a dry spell. And all of this brings us to our final and probably most reassuring takeaway of this whole explainer. If you've been wondering if an extended period of abstinence is somehow biologically harmful or, permanently damaging, we need to remember this one golden rule: fulfillment over frequency. Now, what's really interesting here is how quickly the actual biology debunks our biggest societal myths. Let's get this straight. Stopping sex does not damage your brain. It does not rewire you permanently. It doesn't mean you're unhealthy. And let me be absolutely 100% clear, there is no required biological quota for sex. There's literally no such thing as a normal amount. What truly matters at the end of the day are our core human needs. We're talking pleasure, connection, stress relief, and self-worth. Any imbalance you feel during a period of abstinence, it doesn't actually come from the lack of sex itself. It comes from these underlying needs going unmet. If you fulfill these 4 pillars through other avenues in your life, whether that's through friends, hobbies, or just taking care of yourself, your brain adjusts perfectly fine. So the crucial point is this: your brain cares way less about frequency and infinitely more about fulfillment. We can completely drop the stigma of a dry spell right now. It is not going to break your brain. It merely changes how your brain balances its core needs. Which leaves us with this final thought to carry with you. Since your brain is this brilliant, efficient, and highly adaptable machine, if a dry spell ever comes your way, what new pathways will your highly adaptable brain build today to find its fulfillment? Thank you so much for exploring this amazing topic with me today in this explainer, and keep feeding that curiosity.